It's not every day we get to dive into a firsthand account of a major historical event, right? And even less often that we get to see it from this perspective.
Yeah, it's pretty rare.
So today we're lucky enough to explore the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait in 1990.
And not just through, the lens of like history books or news articles, we're actually hearing directly from someone who was there in the thick of it.
Exactly. We've got Mذكرات Asir, the memoir of Khalud Ali al-Kandari, a Kuwaiti prisoner of war.
Wow. Okay.
And just to put it in perspective for everyone, this was just translated into English this year, September 2024.
Wow, so for almost 35 years, this story has been untold.
Yeah,
At least to anyone who, primarily reads in English.
right. And there are so many stories like his from this time.
Thousands, yeah. Thousands of people were captured, and
Wow.
each of them with their own experiences, their own...
Their own perspective on this huge, tumultuous period.
Exactly.
And al-Kandari, he doesn't hold back. He starts his story on August 2nd, 1990. You know what we call Black Thursday?
Right, right.
And he describes waking up, hearing the news, and just that feeling, that sinking feeling that this is it. This isn't a drill.
I can't even imagine.
And on top of that, he makes the choice to send his family away, hoping to keep them safe while
Well, it stays behind.
Yeah.
Which, in the larger scheme of things, that's the day that Kuwait's defenses were just completely overwhelmed. It's incredible how quickly things escalated.
Yeah.
The world reacted, like immediately, of course, condemning the invasion, the UN trying to figure out what to do, but it was just the beginning.
The start of the first Gulf War. And, while all this is going on, al-Kandari talks about hearing the Iraqi forces getting closer and closer. But it's not just through, the sounds of war, it's through the radio.
Wow.
The broadcast, the propaganda. It's like a soundtrack to his entire world falling apart.
That's eerie. And,
Yeah.
Thinking about it, the radio played such a vital role in this entire conflict, both sides using it,
Right.
to try to control the narrative,
Right.
spread misinformation, create fear, even try to inspire some resistance.
Yeah.
Really makes you think about the power of information, even back then, but especially now.
Especially now, yeah. Okay, so we've talked about al-Kandari being a prisoner of war, but let's really unpack that experience. What does that actually mean for someone like him?
Well, you have to think about it as this huge psychological shift.
Mhm.
Like one day you're living your life and the next it's gone. Your freedom, any sense of certainty, it's just gone.
Just ripped away.
Completely. And the fear of the unknown, not knowing what's coming next, being totally at the mercy of your captors, it
Unimaginable.
takes immense toll.
And he describes this journey, actually becoming a prisoner, and it's just awful. He's moved from his airbase,
Oh, I bet.
thrown on these buses, shunted around from one place to the next. Can you imagine that?
No. Just the not knowing, the uncertainty.
It's just agonizing.
And that's the thing, right? That was a tactic straight out of the Iraqi playbook. Keep the prisoners guessing, disoriented, always moving.
So they can't get their bearings.
Exactly. It breeds this helplessness. You're completely at their mercy. It's psychological manipulation.
Wow.
And it gets, well, al-Kandari mentioned something else.
Oh, yeah, there's that part where he talks about almost being taken to a mass grave.
Yeah. I mean, just the terror, thinking that that's it, that's how it ends.
Chilling.
It forces us to really think about the darkest parts of war. Things we don't like to talk about.
The Geneva Conventions, things like that.
Exactly. Violations of international law,
Hmm.
treatment of prisoners, the potential for atrocities. It's the undercurrent of any conflict. We can't look away from it.
We can't, but even with all that, even with the fear, with the despair, al-Kandari shows us how resilient people can be.
The human spirit is something else, isn't it?
He talks about the prisoners sharing what little water they had, telling jokes, even in the face of that kind of danger.
It's that basic human need to connect, to find hope. You take away everything else, and we still find ways to resist. It makes you wonder, how would you even begin to cope?
That's a really good question. Where do you find the strength?
Right.
And as his story goes on, we follow him into the prison. The conditions he describes, it's awful. The lack of food, the cramped spaces, always being watched.
Designed to break a person, that's the whole point.
It's dehumanizing.
It's about control.
Uh-huh.
And that's where the whole psychology of confinement comes into play. It's the routine, finding a tiny sliver of purpose in all that hopelessness.
Just holding on to something.
Yeah, and then there are these acts of defiance, of connection, like when he talks about the prisoners listening to smuggled radios.
They were getting news from the outside.
Oh, yeah, little glimpses of hope, information, anything to remind themselves there's a world outside those walls. It shows how vital that connection is, especially when you're in a crisis. If you were in Alkandari's shoes, cut off from everything, what would you want?
Wow. What one piece of information would you crave the most?
Exactly.
It really does make you think about all the things we take for granted.
Right.
And we'll get into this more, but Alkandari's story, it isn't just about his resilience, it's about the families. The people who loved these prisoners, who never gave up hope, and they went to incredible lengths to help. It's really hard to grasp, being that far away, not knowing if your loved one is okay.
It's a pain most of us can't even fathom.
In Alkandari, he shares this story about a fellow prisoner, Salaman, and it's Salaman's mother who she becomes the central figure in this part of the story, her dedication to finding her son, but also she goes above and beyond to try to help all the POWs. It's incredible.
That's the thing about families, especially in these situations in wartime. I mean, it's their strength.
Yeah.
They're carrying so much, this fear, this unimaginable worry, but they find a way to push through to be strong, not just for themselves, but for everyone.
To their loved ones, yeah.
It's powerful.
It really is. And resourceful, I mean, that doesn't even begin to describe it. Like Alkandari, he talks about families finding ways to sneak messages into the prisons.
Oh, no way.
Even supplies. They were hiding messages in food.
Wow. That takes guts. And organization. You can't pull that off alone, There had to be a whole network of people on the outside working together.
Risking everything to maintain that sliver of hope.
Exactly.
It's a powerful reminder that even in the worst situations, facing the unimaginable, humanity finds a way.
It makes you think about what we're really capable of, our resilience. I mean, that's the heart of what we can learn from Alkandari's story, from everyone who went through this experience. Their strength, their unity, that love for their country, it challenges us. How does this change how you view what it means to overcome something? What does resilience mean to you now?
It's certainly given me a lot to think about. And while we've only just scratched the surface today, Muzakrat Asir is a powerful book. It's a testament to the strength of the human spirit, and it reminds us to keep looking for these stories, the ones that aren't always told. They're out there. And we should listen to them, learn from them, because they remind us to never, ever take our own freedom for granted.